So now we're going to measure soil respiration. And we're going to do that using your handy dandy garden care kit, which is included in your soil test kit. And that's in this box. And what's included in this kit is going to be a container for putting in your soil, a foil bag that has got a detector in it, and I'll show you how to use that, and a key that's going to help us interpret what that paddle says. So you're going to go out to wherever you're interested in how the soils are functioning, and you're going to grab a sample of soil. And in your sample of soil, because this is a basal respiration test, you want to make sure that the soil is of adequate water content, not too dry, not too wet. We are going to take the soil from this bag and we are going to add it to your test container. It's just a regular screw top container. I'm going to take the lid off, take your soil, add it to the container, and tap as you go along so that you can settle it out. There is a fill line on the side of the container, which I will show you here in a second. And you can see that here's the fill line, and I've filled the container with soil to that fill line. Once you've filled it to that level, you're going to take one of the paddles out of the foil bag. This is what that paddle looks like prior to putting it into the container. You'll put this into the container so that you can actually see it through the wall of the container. Then you're going to put the cap back on, screw it on tightly, and you're going to leave this for 24 hours. And in that 24-hour period of time, that soil is going to continue to respire. And as the soils respire, the color of that paddle will begin to change. And after 24 hours, we'll come back and we'll look at what the soils have done. Today, I prepared one of these yesterday so that we can see what the soil actually did overnight. So here we have the same container that we had filled to the fill line. I inserted the paddle into that container, and we're going to open this now and take a look at the color change. So once you've identified the color on your palette that matches the color on your paddle, that information can be put into Table 2. And Table 2 is going to help you interpret what those results mean. So the Solvita key comes with two types of color palettes. One that's for fluorescent light and one that's for incandescent light. You can never know what kind of room you're going to be in or what kind of light source you're going to have. So depending on whether or not you have regular light bulbs, which would be incandescent light or sunlight, or fluorescent lights, if you have fluorescent lights in the room, that will determine which of those palettes you end up using. If you go to Table 2, then you'll see that for green 3.5, which is what we identified this as, that it is in the green-yellow range. And that means it's ideal soil activity. So that means that the soil is well supplied with soil organic matter and has an abundance of soil organisms. When we look at what the amount of carbon dioxide that is coming off of those soils corresponds to that color, it's about 39 to 78 parts per million carbon dioxide carbon. It also corresponds to a range of 40 to 80 pounds of nitrogen per acre being mineralized. That information can be entered into Table 3 for your reference. When we think about soil respiration, a higher level of soil respiration means more biological activity. That normally means that the conditions are very good for soils to be doing their thing. When soil conditions are not very good, then the biological activity is going to be low. When we think about low biological activity, it might be under conditions of things like poor aeration that might be caused by compaction or by flooding, or poor chemical conditions, pHs that aren't appropriate for biological activity. On the other hand, when biological activity is too high, it sometimes indicates that there are some management aspects that need to be remedied. In other words, if you have excessive tillage, or you're adding too much nutrients or too much manure, that could result in a very, very high reading.